In this video, we're going to discuss what a registered investment advisor is. Hello, my name is Michael Rasmussen. I'm the founder of United Atlantic Legal Services. I'm an attorney that focuses exclusively on investment advisors in the United States and the United Kingdom. Today, like I said, we're going to talk about what is a registered investment advisor. We're going to jump into a little bit of background on why investment advisors even exist in the United States. We're going to go through the definition, the legal definition of an investment advisor in the United States. And then we're going to look at the registration process and what it really kind of means to be an investment advisor in the United States. This is my YouTube channel. Last week, this week in RIA compliance. If investment advisor compliance is something of interest to you, please do subscribe to our channel and like the video. Let's jump in. Again, talking about what is an investment advisor today. As many of you may know, the Investment Advisors Act is a 1940 act. This is one of the last acts in a series of acts that Congress passed following the Great Depression of the 1930s and the stock crash of the 1929. And it's really focused at making sure that those individuals and entities that provide investment advice to clients understand that they're doing so for the benefit of that client and not for the benefit of themselves. Following the Great Depression, the SEC issued a report to Congress explaining some of the reasons and causes of the Great Depression. And one of those things that they really emphasized and highlighted was that a lot of financial professionals were not providing advice to their clients that was necessarily in the best interest of the client, but rather in the best interest of the financial professional giving that advice. Again, Investment Advisors Act of 1940. And in that, and through legal interpretation, the United States Supreme Court has said that investment advisors owe their clients a fiduciary obligation to act in the best interest of those clients. So we're going to get into all of that in a little bit, but I did want to give you a little bit of the background of where we got the Investment Advisors Act to start. I'm going to do a deeper dive into the Investment Advisors Act and some of the other regulations in another video. So under the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, we have a very succinct definition of what an investment advisor is. This is Rule 202A11 of the Investment Advisors Act for any of you that want to go look it up. But essentially, there's three elements that an individual or an entity has to meet to fall within the umbrella of an investment advisor and therefore fall in the purview of the Investment Advisors Act of 1940. So the first element is that the entity must be engaged in the business of providing advice concerning the analysis or reporting on securities. So there's a couple different things we have to kind of look at there in the business component and then regarding securities as kind of the two pieces of this first element. In the business, the regulators look at whether or not an entity or an individual is holding themselves out as an investment advisor. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck sort of thing, then likely you've met that first element of in the business. Additionally, obviously, if you're compensated for providing the advice, that tends to show that you're in the business of providing advice. The next piece of this first element, though, is that advice has to be regarding securities. There's a very technical definition of what a list of what securities are in the Securities Act of 1933. Go take a look at that. But for our purposes, any advice that we're talking about here today has to be in relation to securities. So if we're talking about real estate proper, that wouldn't fall underneath the Investment Advisors Act because real estate is not a security. Stocks, bonds, all your common ideas of what a security is, of course, fall within that. There is this concept of what an investment contract is, and I'm not going to get into this too deeply. But again, if you're in a gray area and you're not sure whether or not you're providing advice on a security, you're going to want to look at a test that the United States Supreme Court has laid out. It's called the Howey test. We'll cover it in another video at another time. Again, we're looking at whether or not you're engaged in the business of providing advice relating to the analysis or reports concerning securities. That's the first element of what an investment advisor is. Second, the advice or analysis that you're providing must be related to the securities again, but whether or not it's advisable to invest or purchase or sell those securities. So you're giving advice on a security. If it doesn't touch on whether or not an individual or an entity should actually purchase that security or sell the security or hold the security, and it's not necessarily providing advice underneath this rule. The last element, though, is that there should be compensation to meet the definition of an investment advisor. I mentioned this earlier as part of that first element, but an investment advisor is typically obviously compensated for the advice that they provide. Where we see a lot of clients or potential clients when we're having these conversations try to get out from the definition of investment advisor and therefore out from the umbrella of the Investment Advisors Act and all the rules that come with it, is that they would say, whoa, I was never compensated for providing these services. And compensation has been really broadly construed by regulators in the courts. So it can be cash, obviously, but non-cash compensation may also be considered compensation underneath the Investment Advisors Act of 1940 and the definition of what an investment advisor is. So there you go. If you meet all three of those elements, then you are considered an investment advisor underneath the Investment Advisors Act of 1940, and you generally have to go through the registration process. So the registration process is the next thing we're going to jump into. And when we're talking about the registration process, it's divided between two different areas, state registration and SEC registration. Generally speaking, or broadly speaking, larger firms register with the SEC, smaller firms register with state regulators. And when we say large or small firms, we're referring to the assets under management, and that's the amount of client assets that a firm or an individual would be managing. State registration can oftentimes actually be a little bit more complicated, as there's many different state regulators, and they all have their different rules and regulations, some of which are fairly nuanced. SEC registration, on the other hand, is much broader, much more consistent. Let's say typically investment advisors find the registration process with the SEC to be much smoother. There are instances, and I'll close on this, that an investment advisor firm or an investment advisor individual would find themselves having an exemption from the definition of what an investment advisor is. This means that they meet the three criteria that we discussed earlier, but because of some exemption that is found in the Investment Advisors Act, they're not necessarily required to register either with the state or with the Securities and Exchange Commission. However, we find, especially with some of our foreign advisors, that registration is a proactive and positive step in the eyes of their clients. Oftentimes, clients want to know that there's a regulator looking over the shoulder of the financial professionals that are offering them services. That is the idea of what an investment advisor is and what the registration process is. Again, my name's Michael Rasmussen. This is a blog we put together for investment advisor professionals, compliance professionals. And if you want to learn more, please do subscribe to our channel. We look forward to learning with you.